What's up guys, Justin here. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas, an awesome New Year. I'm so glad that you're joining us today as we kick off the new year. We got an awesome thing we're talking about today, but I wanna start by telling you guys a story quick. So I'm a dad, which means all I talk about is my kids. And so I wanna tell you a story about my son, Ezra. Ezra's about 2 years old, and this is Ezra. He's adorable, he is awesome, he's got a hilarious personality. He is just the best. So that's Ezra on a good day, right? And let's just be real, we all have bad days, right? Like, it's human nature. So a couple weeks ago, Ezra got sick. And it wasn't anything crazy, but he wasn't feeling good. And we're all cranky when we don't feel good, right? But here's the thing, we know how to use words. Ezra really doesn't. So when he was sick, he resorted to and it's this beautiful symphony of just screeching, and it was awesome. As a dad, in that moment where Ezra's looking at me from the floor like, Dad, make it stop, and I'm looking at him like, dude, I can't. And I just had this moment where as a dad, I didn't feel like enough. As a dad, I felt completely unqualified to be in that caretaker position for him. And here's the thing, I think we can all relate to the feeling of being unqualified or not feeling like enough. And this is this weird thing because our world sends us messages all the time about being enough, but what even is that, right? It's this moving target because for school, you have to be smart enough, and for family, you have to be good enough, and for to get the part in that musical or to get playing time on that team, you have to be talented enough, and it's just so exhausting, right? And if you're sitting here today and you found yourself, you felt that pressure, and you understand that exhaustion, can I just say that I'm so glad that you're here today because I've got good news for you. And the good news is that you're enough. You are enough. And I can almost feel as I say that, I feel you arguing with me in your head, right? Like, okay, Justin, yeah, but like you're talking to the kids who are here every week and like, I'm not, that's not me. So that, yeah. Or you're talking to the kids who you know they believe what you believe. You don't know me. You don't know what I believe. You don't know what I did. You don't know what I'm still doing. Like, you don't know me. And if that's you, I just want to speak to you for a second. Can you stick with me for a few minutes? Because we're going to look at a story today of someone else who just wasn't enough, who didn't feel qualified. We're actually looking at a story today found in the biblical book of John chapter 6. And I want you to open up with me. We're going to open to John chapter 6 and start in verse 5 and read the story of a boy who in and of himself, he wasn't enough. And so I want to read John chapter 6, starting in verse 5. Here's what it says. Jesus soon saw a huge crowd of people coming to look for him. Turning to Philip, one of his disciples, he asked, "Where can we buy enough bread to feed all these people?" He was testing Philip, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, "Even if we work for months, we wouldn't have enough money to feed them." Then Andrew, another disciple, Simon Peter's brother, he spoke up. "There's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what good is that with this huge crowd?" "Tell everyone to sit down," Jesus said. So they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed them to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. Okay, so just think about this for a second. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of this little boy who you leave the house for the day, you pack your little lunch, which by the way, that dude had some plans that day. If you pack 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, that's more than a lunch, side note. So you pack your lunch for the day, you leave the house, and you get caught up in this crowd, and out of this crowd of thousands of people, Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of Man says, "Hey bro, like, are you gonna eat that? Because if not, like, I could use that." And so you're like, okay, Jesus, here you go. You hand your lunch to Jesus and you just watch as he starts pulling your lunch out. You're like, okay, yeah, that's normal. Okay, wait a minute. And you just watch as he continues to distribute your food to thousands of people. And think about, that boy knew in his lunch that was not enough food for everyone. And Jesus comes in and says, "I'm gonna make it enough." And what I love about this story is that we know nothing about this boy. We don't know who he is. We don't know what he believes. We don't know what kind of life he lived. We know nothing about that boy. And Jesus saw him and said, I'm gonna make what you have enough. And so to those of you earlier who were kind of arguing with me in your heads, you're like, I don't know you. I don't know what you believe. I don't know the life that you live, but Jesus does. And what I want you to hear me today is you are enough because of Jesus. So you kind of had a point earlier when you disagreed with me. Like, I don't really know if I'm enough. I don't know that any of us are without Jesus. Jesus makes you enough in a world filled with different voices and different opinions about how to be enough. The one that stands true and the one that should be louder than the rest of them is Jesus's voice saying, I give you value. And the value that I give cannot be touched by your talents or lack thereof. It cannot be touched by your social status. It cannot be touched by the things that you do. The value I give you doesn't change. And so my question for you as we kind of close out our time today is where is your identity right now? Is it in your talents? Is it in your grades? Is it in these things that can come and go? And if that's the case, what does it look like? How can you embrace the fact that Jesus says, you are enough because of me? Nothing else can complete you but me. And I just want to, as a church family, think about the kind of year that 2023 can be. If we live embracing this truth that our identity is untouchable and unshakable because it's in Jesus, and we are enough because of him.